Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight into the musical alchemy behind Miley Cyrus's record-breaking disco-funk anthem, Flowers. It's a song you've undoubtedly heard absolutely everywhere, but today we're not just listening to it, we're going to completely deconstruct it. We're going to pull apart the layers of this pop masterpiece to see exactly why it's so incredibly catchy and how its producers actually manipulated sound and silence to make us feel so empowered. To really understand the massive scale of this track, just consider this number, 17. That's the record-breaking number of weeks Flowers spent at #1 on the Billboard Radio Songs chart. It also pulled in over 96 million streams in just a single week, making it the fastest song to ever cross the 100 million mark on Spotify globally. Oh, and it won Record of the Year and Best Pop Solo Performance at the Grammys. But listen, hits of this magnitude, they don't just happen by accident. They are meticulously engineered. So here's our roadmap for today as we put on our audio engineer hats. We're going to cover 1. The anatomy of a hit. 2. Pop chords and music theory. 3. Crafting the disco funk pulse. 4. The art of musical layering. And finally, 5. The famous slingshot effect. All right, kicking things off with section 1, the anatomy of a hit, a response in contrast. You know, a huge part of this song's massive appeal is how it acts as a narrative response to Bruno Mars's 2012 hit, When I Was Your Man, where Mars sings all about buying flowers. Cyrus responds by holding her own hand. But musically, Flowers flips the script entirely. It trades that slow, stripped-back 73 BPM piano ballad of regret for a driving 118 BPM disco-funk strut of assertive independence. Now, there is actually a copyright lawsuit from Tempo Music Investments claiming unauthorized duplication, but music experts and Cyrus's team have pointed out that Flowers uses no direct samples or obvious interpolations. Instead, it creates a completely different sonic space that just turns the emotional narrative on its head. Moving right along to section 2, pop chords and music theory, building the bed. So how did this track evolve from what co-writer Michael Pollack said was originally a slow, sad piano ballad demo into the complex masterpiece we know today? Well, we have to look at its foundation. The song relies on a steady, repeating 4-chord loop of A minor, D minor, G, and C. This A minor progression is an absolute staple of modern pop hits. It's comfortable, it's familiar, and it gives the track this really steady, walking foundation. But listen to what happens right at the end of the pre-chorus. There's a fascinating twist that sets up the drop perfectly. The crucial point here is this E7 chord. Normally, in the key of C major or A minor, an E chord is supposed to be an E minor, but the producers flipped it into an E major 7. In music theory, we call this a secondary dominant. It's this brilliant trick pulled straight from classical music and vintage 70s disco. By turning that minor third into a major chord, it injects this classical, almost regal tension into the track. It serves as the absolute perfect launchpad to rocket us right back into the minor chords of the chorus. Which brings us to section 3, crafting the disco funk pulse, the engine of the song. Okay, producers Kid Harpoon and Tyler Johnson built this groove incredibly methodically. Step 1 was establishing a dead, vintage-style kick drum. It's muted, it's got a harsh attack but no long tail, which completely nails that classic 70s disco vibe. Step 2 is that bass line. They used a staccato, bouncing bass that actually borrows from country and norteño twang influences. That's what gives it that skipping, walking feel instead of just a sustained hum. And finally, step 3. They layered in slightly offbeat, flaming claps. By having multiple claps hit just a millisecond apart, paired with a sharply gated snare drum, meaning the drum sound is cut off instantly to keep it tight, it creates this incredibly organic, live, human feeling that literally makes you want to get up and move. Next up, section 4, the art of musical layering, painting with texture. Now, a great beat and some solid chords are awesome, but they aren't enough on their own to make a song feel massive. To expand the track and give it a ton of personality, without muddying up Miley's signature raspy vocal, the producers introduced what musicologists call a novelty layer. Usually you have your beat layer, your bass layer, and your melodic layers. But a novelty layer is an instrument with a highly unusual timbre that jumps in to act as its own independent hook. In Flowers, that novelty layer is the super distinct, reedy oboe-like synthesizer. If you listen really closely to the chorus, right after Miley sings a line like, "I can buy myself flowers," this synth immediately swoops in to fill the negative space. It's a classic call and response technique. It doesn't step on her vocals at all. Instead, it acts almost like a backup singer. It's like a flying mirror, reflecting her melody back and keeping the energy absolutely sky high while she takes a breath. But they didn't stop there. Beyond the novelty synth, they padded out the remaining frequencies with these incredible incredibly rich textures. We're talking a gliding tremolo Wurlitzer electric piano, plus stabbing Juno synth chords that punch right on the downbeat. Then they add analog bongos and shakers to give it constant 16th note momentum. And finally, they bring in these beautiful, lush 70s-style session strings that sweep in during the post-chorus. When you stack all of these together, a technique known as harmonic and rhythmic layering, it creates a fat, rich, juicy sonic tapestry that just feels larger than life. And finally, Section 5, the famous slingshot effect, psychological production. So, how do you make all those beautifully layered textures hit with maximum impact? Well, I want you to think about the chorus of this song. The pre-chorus is building, 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 started to cry, but then remembered I, and then, right where you expect a massive kick drum and all the instruments to crash down on beat 1, there is absolute silence. They deliberately left the downbeat completely empty. No cymbals, no kick, literally nothing. Experts describe this momentary vacuum as the slingshot effect. By suddenly pulling all the instruments back on beat 1, your brain anticipates a heavy beat that just doesn't arrive. This builds immense physical tension. It's exactly like winding or pulling back a giant slingshot. So, when the entire instrumental arrangement finally hits and unleashes on beat 2, the release is incredibly explosive and propulsive. But here's what's truly brilliant. This strategic silence isn't just a clever beat trick, it's a profound narrative tool. The silence perfectly mirrors the lyrical lightbulb moment of the song. The music literally stops to let Miley remember her own independence and self-worth. It's a clean, sharp break from the vulnerability of the verses, pivoting instantly into the confident, strutting declaration of self-love in the chorus. The music and the message are in perfect dramatic sync. And this brings us to a fascinating concept of perceived loudness. The producers didn't actually need to turn the volume dial up to make the chorus feel huge. Instead, they used negative space. By momentarily dropping the energy to 0, the sudden return of the music feels monumentally loud and powerful. It's psychological amplification at its finest. So as you listen to your favorite hits from now on, ask yourself, how are producers using the power of empty space and sharp contrast to manipulate our emotions and make the music feel larger than life? Because Flowers is absolute proof that sometimes the most impactful sound in a song is no sound at all.